The journey had begun in tobacco and gold. From unremarkable roots, Lazarus Morgenthau had risen to become one of the biggest cigar manufacturers in Germany. He had received the Grand Duke of Baden at home and visited Napoleon III in the Tuileries. Decades later, after the change of worlds and fortunes, the royal visits would remain his brightest memory and a reminder of how far he had fallen. Lazarus was born on August 17, 1815, in Kleinwallstadt, a small market town on Bavaria's northern border. His father, Moses, born in 1773, was the first to take the name Morgenthau. As the 19th century opened and Napoleon's influence spread, German Jews were permitted, like French Jews before them, to adopt surnames. For generations, Moses's heirs retold the story. As he stood in line awaiting his turn before the town clerk, Moses looked at the bare earth beneath his feet and saw the morning dew, the Morgenthau. Moses and his brothers lived by the trades of their faith. They were shochet malamdem chazonim, butchers, teachers, and singers. But not Lazarus. As the boy studied the sacred texts, his eye strayed. Lazarus had joined his brothers as a singer in synagogue, but soon signaled that his intentions lay elsewhere, beyond the bounds of the permissible. In 1842, at the age of 27, and having achieved little more than becoming a struggling tailor, Lazarus boldly wrote a Lebensgeschichte, an autobiography. The diary, as it was known among successive generations, was written in an ornate script and runs more than 100 pages. It tells the unlikely story of an escape from orthodoxy. As if sensing that he would prosper one day, Lazarus set out to record his struggle, rendering in lapidary detail a childhood of poverty and upheaval. In 1825, Moses, destitute and unable to feed his 7 children, had sent his sons away. The boys would sing for their supper in the private homes of Frankfurt. The enterprise was humiliating, yet profitable. Too small to be seen by all those gathered, the Morgenthau boys would stand on chairs to sing and be, as Lazarus recalled, much complimented. Tours followed. Moses's sons, Lazarus was the 3rd eldest, traveled the Jewish communities of the southern Palatinate and, in their spells at home, learned to beg provisions from local farmers. By the time the brothers arrived in Herben in 1832, Lazarus had turned his back on his forefathers. I realized that no object would be gained even if I achieved the position of cantor in 10 years, he wrote. I went home and told my parents I wanted to learn a trade. He settled on tailoring and soon found an apprenticeship. Defying family and faith, Lazarus went to work with Christian tailors. He learned to make cravats, neckties that in cut and color marked an assault on the black and white uniforms of the Jews. After he made his first cravat, Lazarus dared to wear it to synagogue, standing on the bima, the small stage at the center of the temple where he had once sung as a cantor. Lazarus had a canny sense for public relations, and he soon found another gift. He could pass for a Gentile. In 1838, after suffering a trading drought at a Munich fair, Lazarus sought a permit for a stall in Landshut, a town to the northeast. Officials there could not determine if he was a Jew, so they held 2 booths in reserve, one in the market street where the Jews were obliged to trade, and the other in the Hauptstrasse, the main street where the Christians sold their wares. After arriving in town, Lazarus was given a permit to join the Christians. As he had brought goods chiefly for the gentry, the chance to sell on the Hauptstrasse was a boon. In Landshut that day, Lazarus enjoyed his best trading ever. From then on, he took to traveling bareheaded, letting his blond locks grow unruly. No matter how many conventions he had broken, Lazarus remained loyal to his long-suffering mother. Brunhilde had given birth to her first surviving child in 1809 and her last in 1831. As a young mother, she had contracted consumption, and each year she had grown steadily weaker. The sicker his mother became, the more money Lazarus devoted to her care. In 1834, on the final day of January, her lungs gave out. The day after Brunhilde's death, her husband, Moses, suffered a fatal stroke. Lazarus's mother had died at 51 and his father at 53. 8 children were left as orphans, the youngest a boy not yet 3. The death and long decline of his mother would never leave Lazarus. Years later, on the cusp of marriage, he vowed his own wife would never endure such misery.